So what happens when a crisis completely shatters a society? What happens to the kids? And maybe more importantly, what happens to their education? That's what we're digging into today, the absolute collapse of the education system in Gaza and the huge plan that's been designed to try and rebuild it, literally from the ashes.
To really get what this means, we've got to look past the big numbers for a second. Let's start with just one person, a 13-year-old girl named Amal. Her story, it really puts a human face on this whole crisis. I mean, just look at this contrast. It is absolutely staggering, right? On one side, you have Amal's memories of her old school. The simple things like school bells, laughing with friends, music. And then on the other side, her reality now. Her school is a shelter, a place defined by the sound of bombs. It's not a school. It's the polar opposite of what a school's supposed to be. And for Amal, this tragedy, it just hits so incredibly close to home. The airstrike didn't just take out the school building. It killed most of her teachers, including her father, who was the principal, and her mother, who was the music teacher. I mean, for her, the collapse of the education system was literally the collapse of her entire world.
Amal's story is it's heartbreaking. And the thing is, she's one of thousands. So let's pull back from her personal story for a moment and look at the bigger picture, the sheer scale of a system that's just completely in ruins.
Okay, just take in this number for a second. 600,000. That's how many students in Gaza, according to UNRW, have been forced to drop out of school because of the war. 600,000. We're talking about an entire generation's education just stopped in its tracks. And listen, we're not talking about a few missed weeks here. These kids have already lost 2 full school years, and a third one is already starting. Just think about what that means. This isn't just a learning gap, it's a chasm that could impact their entire future, their well-being, everything. So, where are these kids supposed to go back to? Well, here's the devastating reality. There's almost nowhere to go. An unbelievable 85% of Gaza's schools are either damaged or just gone. And that other 15%? They aren't really schools anymore. They've been turned into shelters, exactly like the one Amal is living in now. So when you're looking at that level of total devastation, the question becomes, what do you even do? How do you possibly restart an entire education system from ashes? Well, let's take a look at the blueprint that's been put forward. The plan is, well, it's really ambitious, and it's built on 3 main ideas. First up, take those 15% of schools that are still standing and turn them into these central learning hubs. Second, build new, quick-to-assemble hubs to get more kids in the door across the strip. And third, and this is a really big one, they want to launch e-learning portals. So you get this mix, right? Some in-person time, some online learning to try and get around the huge physical challenges. Okay, so you've got the plan for buildings. But a building is just a building, right? For this to even have a chance of working, these hubs have to meet some really tough, non-negotiable requirements. They've got to be safe for one, they have to be accessible, and then you get to the really huge hurdles. They need a permanent power supply and reliable internet. And right now, those 2 things are incredibly hard to come by. It's a massive roadblock before a single class can even begin. But the plan goes deeper than just buildings and internet. There's this fundamental recognition that you can't just pick up where you left off. You can't teach a child who has been through so much trauma in the same old way. So this next part is all about the students themselves. And this really is a huge shift in how you'd approach teaching. The idea is to change the old curriculum so it actually reflects what these kids are living through. And maybe even more important, they want to bake psychological support right into the learning process. It's like emotional first aid. It also means ditching high-stress exams for other ways of seeing how students are doing and designing special catch-up programs. So let's talk about that last one, Accelerated Education Programs, or AEPs. What are they? Basically, they're super flexible, condensed learning tracks. They're designed for one specific purpose, to help kids who've missed a ton of school catch up on the essentials, get a real certificate, and not be left behind for good.
All right, so we've seen the human story with Amal, we've seen the unbelievable scale of the destruction, and we've walked through this detailed plan to rebuild. But it's pretty clear this can't happen in a bubble. The success of this whole thing really depends on something much bigger than logistics or what's in the curriculum. It really comes down to this idea of global responsibility. And this quote really says it all. Bringing education back to Gaza is a duty and a responsibility that the world must help to fulfill. What this does is frame the whole issue not just as a local problem, but as a global imperative. The argument is that ensuring a child gets an education, no matter where they are, is something the whole world has a stake in.
And that brings us to this final, really critical question. The plan for Gaza is one potential answer, but it shines a light on a much bigger, universal challenge. For kids like Amal and for millions of others in conflict zones around the world, how does learning even continue when crisis becomes the new normal? How do you keep that spark of education alive when it feels like the world is falling apart?